Hey there, off-road enthusiasts. Welcome back to Winch Outdoors. Today we're going to be working on this 1985 Dodge Ramcharger. We're going to put a Spartan locker in it and refresh the suspension components and steering. Hopefully that's going to improve the on and off-road capabilities and handling, make it safer and more fun to drive. So let's dive right in, let's get started, all right? This here Ramcharger's seen its fair share of off-road adventures, but the stock steering components are getting a little ragged. So we're going to replace the ball joints, the Draglink, the tie rod, and hopefully that's going to improve the handling on the road and on the trail. Additionally, we'll be installing this Spartan locker to really be able to get up and over those obstacles. So stick around, we're going to get started. I'm excited. Let's jump right in it and get this Ramcharger refreshed. Before we get started, let's go over the tools we're going to need. We're going to need hammer, we're going to need jack stands, a hydraulic jack, we're going to need a socket wrench set, torque wrench, pliers. As far as the parts, we're going to need the Spartan locker, tie rods, the new Draglink, and the new ball joints. All right, well, we're going to get started here. We're going to start with probably the ball joints. All right?
Well, we're going to jack up. This is why he hired me. American sanctioned elite is for ASE certified mechanics, and I've got my card to do all of this. I'm certified, been certified Dodge Ram mechanic for about 3 days now. So. We bought this off of the Matco truck. It's actually a snap-on wrench that I think they put earthquake. But yeah, it came right off the Matco truck from Snap-on. So. All right, we're gonna let it down on the jack stand. Drop the front axle down. Double check, make sure they're lined up. Like this one's not.
Oh my.
That is an edit right there. Andy's is good.
Good job, Andy.
All right, so we've decided, since we're gonna do the locker and get into the diff, it'd just be a lot easier if we had it out and had easy access to it. So we're gonna drop the whole front axle, slide it out, and then we'll show y'all some close-ups of taking the hubs apart, and then once we get into the diff.
She's a little stiff.
We're gonna pull the tie rod off, set it up on jack stands. Got another jack stand to hold the pinion up, and then we'll bust this diff cover loose, drain the fluid, and show you some gears.
I'm telling you, this ring is going to, 3 hours and 45 minutes later, I'm still going to be working on this one ring. You know what I'm talking about, Brian? These snap rings, the big one. If you don't have a good sharp pick, it's just,
I got a grinder.
Ugh. I can kind of get behind it, but I really can't get behind it. And then that wants to move. You got a pick?
Yeah.
Oh, can I go get it?
Huh?
Can you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. Oh, come on.
This is what success looks like.
Yes. Perfect.
It only took about 9 days to get it out.
4 idiots in 9 days.
Yep.
What is going on? Okay. Everyone talks junk. about the vacuum disconnect. Oh, it's junk. Do you see the size of that axle shaft?
The girth is.
Does that look like junk to you?
The girth is excessive.
Excessive.
I mean,
I'd run it.
Excessively girthy.
I mean, I can't.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Look how big that thing is. Look at the
Let's get a close-up.
splines. Look at the splines. You see the splines?
That's it.
Look at those
Here,
splines.
let me.
Clean them up so you can see those
Now you can
splines.
see this one.
And people are like, oh, that's a junk axle. Don't run that. It's got a disconnect. It's vacuum operated. But we've got it locked down. I like how both these joints, neither one of them turn. We need to phase these joints together so they'll turn together this way, and since they don't turn this way.
You
Phase
don't need
them.
it.
Do you want to change them now or wait till they break?
What's that, right?
Okay. God, I wish it turns a little. Okay.
All right, so we're taking the diff cover off, and we're gonna see some gears.
Yep. Show us. Let's see what that fluid looks like.
Yeah. You ain't necessarily got to worry too much what it looks like as long as there's some in there.
Chocolate.
Pond water, it don't matter. All right, guys, this is the moment of truth. Y'all ready? You ready? This is when we find out, is it triple locked? Oh God, it's open.
We got it. I think. I'm not sure. Yep, got it. A little bit of shocking, and then you get her. So I'm always like, the way I do them is once you find the adapter, go ahead and get the other one up there. We've got the old ball joints removed. So now that we've got them removed, we've got our knuckles cleaned up, spiffed up. We're gonna get these pressed in with our ball joint press right here. And when you do that, make sure you got a clean surface, get all the dirt off of it. And also get a plan of attack, because sometimes you might have to come in and drive a ball joint in that way. So figure out which one you're gonna put in first before you start pressing. We're going to put a touch of grease inside here just to get this thing spinning in smoother. And if you don't have three hands, you got to make do with two. We'll get her going. And then make sure everything's going straight. And you can feel it start shaking when it's all the way seated. That looks good, make sure it's seated. And what I like to do too is once you get that done, you've got your adapters all set up, so go ahead and get it out of the way and get your other one ready to go. and you don't have to worry about getting another adapter and losing which adapter you were using. The ball joints together, so now we're ready to do a torque sequence on these. It's a special sequence. You're going to need a special socket to do this, and then we're going to put the carrier together and torque it in and go back together.
Oh, that's a speckle socket.
Oh no, oh, that's bad news right there. See that nut? I don't know what's going on here. I feel like this should be down further, honestly, and it's not. It shouldn't be protruding, but it's already kind of tightened up. Very interesting. Oh, you're right. Yeah, so the taper is different on this.
So we've discovered possibly a problem.
Yeah, there's definitely a height difference, because really this would set down just a touch shorter. You know, it'd be sitting right there. That's where it'd be sitting. See, look how tall that is, and you look where that is. That ain't gonna work. That's why I can't set my preload, and why this thing is sitting above. Yeah, interesting. Well, that's a bummer. What do you do now? It's kind of weird, because if you work on cars, it's weird to have something go wrong. Usually nothing goes wrong. So I don't know what to do at this point, because I've never had anything go wrong working on cars. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're gonna adjust the preload on these ball joints, and we're gonna torque it in sequence to get the correct load on the ball joints. So the first thing you wanna do is you wanna get the lower nut, which is a lock nut, put on at 30 foot-pounds. It's gonna keep spinning and spinning and spinning on you. So what you wanna do is actually tighten this up first, so it'll pull that up, and then you'll be able to torque it. So that's what we're gonna do first. Ooh, if I can hold my socket. Okay, that's 30 foot-pounds. It's in there, it's tight. So the next thing we're gonna do, back off on this and get our adjuster correct. So it's all wobbling in there, so we got to get that adjuster down. And you want to get this around 40 or 50 foot-pounds, somewhere in between there, whatever works best. Click. And then you torque this to 100. Then you torque that to 80. And then you check the load on the ball joints.
We got the ball joints torqued down, and we're gonna move on to getting the tie rod in swapped out. After that, we're gonna get our Draglink put on, new Draglink, new tie rod in. Like we said when we opened up, we're just really trying to get this thing to drive better. So we're gonna get onto these, get these installed as close as we can, and then we'll probably just have to do a shop alignment on it, and then take it for a test spin and see what happens. I couldn't find nothing greasable, so I got on eBay and got the best looking thing I could find that was greasable, and we're gonna try it.
Sweet. Success.
Got her done, boy! Went ahead and got some new leaf springs because the other ones were homemade, so that didn't go very well. But anyway, we got 6-inch Skyjacker easy rides. We're gonna see if we can't make it ride a little better than what it was. And from everybody's opinion, we're gonna take these here caster shims out because we're really worried more about ride than we are and drivability than we are about the drive line, and we think we got enough slip in the front drive shaft. So we're gonna clamp these together, pull the center pin bolt out, pull the caster shim out, and put it all back together.
All right.
Getting ready for our new leaf springs to go in. We got the bolts out of the old one. We're about to drop it down, and then we're gonna put our bushings in the new ones and set them back in place.
Perfect. So tell me why you're replacing these. They worn out or what?
No, they're not necessarily worn out, but like I said earlier, there's a jackleg guy up in Travelers Rest area, and he lives on a golf course, so he thinks he knows everything. And he re-arched these springs. This here is a 4-inch lift main leaf for a K20. This is a Ramcharger leaf. This is a Ford Ranger leaf, and then another Ramcharger leaf. And it just didn't ride real good. So we're trying to improve the ride and get it back to where my wife can drive it, you know? Right now it's like riding a bucking Bronco. We're gonna fix it up. I'm telling you, it is the weirdest thing that I've ever experienced.
The steer, yeah, the way it just like,
I've never done it
it
before.
does this and does that.
So, you know, I'm not an expert by any means, aside from what my shirt says, but it seriously felt like you could be driving down the road and it would have play, and then 10 minutes later, it didn't have much steering play in the box. And then after we went, where did we go? Anyway, we went riding somewhere. So now it'll turn to the left, but it won't turn to the right. You can only get like 2 rotations of the steering wheel going to the right. And
Almost like it's
going to the
jumping
left.
tooth inside a gearbox.
I don't know if something's broken there or what. So that's, when you bought that other axle to go into the first gen Bronco.
Yeah. It had a gearbox with it on the front.
So we're gonna use
So
that.
we're gonna try it with a stock fitment on it.
Right.
Which it might not work with a 6-inch lift, I don't know. We're gonna try it.
We're gonna find out. But that box don't have no play in it.
No, it does feel tight.
All right, now that we got the leaf springs out of the way, we're pretty much open in here. We don't have anything that's gonna constrict getting that gearbox out. So we got the gearbox off of the donor axle. We're gonna pull this old gearbox out. It's beyond worn out. We're gonna try to put this other one on it, and it seems a lot tighter on the bench. So we're gonna see if we can't make it better driving. But as you can see, everything's out of the way, no leaf springs. And we'll be able to pull that gearbox off here pretty quickly.
Do you see this steering brace right here? That's the ticket. Some trucks came with some didn't. But if you don't have one on yours, you get one from the Dodge Connection online. They're real friendly people.
All right, it's coming off.
All right, we got her now.
Put the new leaf springs in. Got the bushings greased up, pressed into the eyelets on the leaf springs. Pretty cool setup here. The way it retains itself so you don't have 2 loose bolts. It's kind of almost like a stud on the backside, a wheel stud on the backside. It presses in to this piece of plate here, and then you just have another piece of plate that goes over the top, and that's your shackle. So we're gonna get these buttoned up, and one step closer to putting the front axle back in.
All right, now that we have upgraded our suspension components, we're gonna get to that Spartan locker and really add some traction to this old girl.
Now what a Spartan locker does is it gives you maximum traction in your off-road scene. It's gonna put power to both wheels when you hit the gas and improve your traction off-road. We're gonna dig in. Got our Yukon koozie. Looks like we got a receipt here. Don't wanna give away pricing. We do want to look at a direction sheet because we have a vacuum disconnect on this axle and we're going to try to retain all that. So I don't know if we're going to be able to put the axle clip back in with this locker, but we'll see. Do a new roll here. All right. Spartan locker install manual. It's just a old screwdriver, kind of cut off. I'm in from the back side and look there. You get the right tool,
Easy.
just falls right out. We got a new roll pin we could put in.
Okay.
Maybe will, maybe won't. Take the shims out, we'll measure it to be 145 to 170 thousandths free play. And as long as that's right, you leave the shims out. But you want to make sure they come out, not to come out. That's in there. Just get that one out. And that one's already out. Okay, so all 4 shims are out. So now it's time to actually put our locker in. Okay. You old fumbly right here. All right. Okay. Need that in there. Then we need this in here. And then we need this and this in here. So it's got to go like so, like that. I'm going to ease it in here. Try to ease it in here. I think we're going to get it in here. Oh, we got it in here. All right. Now the fun part is time for the cross pin. You got the cross pin? All right. So this is the fun part, because what happens is those 2 little spacers are always a bear to get around when you get the cross pin in. Here we go. Oh yeah, it's fighting me. It is fighting me. Pretty good. And I reckon we'll try to use a new one. It'll fit. Try to use it. If it gives us any grief at all, we're not going to use it. Looking good. I'll get our driver. Once you get to here, you get your cross pin back in. You know, obviously you've spring loaded all these. I like to take a pair of cutters. It's easier to grab them and just release. So now that pin's released in. Gonna get that one. Now that one's locked in. Gonna come over here, get that one, and then one more. Now we're locked.
So now the spring ratchets will.
Yeah, now the springs will hold pressure, and then they can ratchet around each other when they need to, and that thing can actually move like that. So the next thing to do is you want to check this gap with a feeler gauge or a micrometer or caliper or whatever. Check it for 145 to 170 thousandths. That's what you should have between there. So we're going to see if we can find some feeler gauges. Make sure that's right, because if it's too big, you can actually go back apart and steal a washer shim and make that tighter if you need to. But hopefully it'll measure what it's supposed to. Now we need feeler gauges. So that should be perfect. Put the ring gear back on. I like to torque it in the carrier so I can use the housing to torque all these bolts. So I just get them nice and evenly tight and snug with the impact. Don't go crazy on these. They're tiny on this Dana 44. And I think they only torque to maybe 55 foot-pounds once you get it in. So go easy with it, putting it back together. Thank you, sir. click. Seems a little light, but it should be plenty. Smoke rod attached. I really don't know what the spec is, I'm just guessing. But you want to make sure you're torquing to something. We're going to put them at 70. I think they're supposed to be at 65, but dang, it felt a little loose.
Can you tell me why we had to do that?
It's got a vacuum disconnect where it's got a sensor here and a vacuum that came in here. When you put it in four-wheel drive, it activates a vacuum that pulls this fork, shift fork, into position and has a little coupler that locks the axle shafts together. Well, we don't want that anymore. So what we did was just put a tack down in there on the rod. So now this shift fork can't move in or out. Since we have locking hubs, we don't need this vacuum disconnect.
What we're doing now is we're seating these bearings. We're getting our first inner axle nut in, and we're going to get it a little over tightened just to make sure the bearings are seated, everything's where it needs to be. If I can get this to line up, and we did, there we go. So that's way too tight. Yeah, a little hard to turn, but they should be seated now. Then you want to back off. What you want to do after you get these seated, over tightened, loosen them up, and then I like to just take the socket back in here by hand and then just tighten it. Hand tight, just not that much, just like that. Hand tight, now it's kind of stopped, and start right there. You want it pretty loose, because if it ain't loose, when you torque the outer nut, it's going to be way too tight, and you're going to put additional heat on those bearings that you don't want. Then you got to line this girl up right here. So you can go looser or tighter, however you got to do to get the little tab to line up with one of these holes. You got this going to line up on the spindle, and then on the nut, you got to get that tab lined up for this to seat. You gonna help out? All right. There's a lot of talk on the internet about this nut right here.
Yeah.
What's the torque spec? Is it 50 pounds? Is it 100 pounds? I don't know. I'm gonna put it on at 90, and I feel comfortable with that. Some people say 115. I don't know. Some people put it on with a hammer and a chisel, but we're gonna at least torque it to 90, and then we're gonna feel what that feels like at 90. And if it feels good, we're gonna roll with it. Because 90 is a lot. Oh, it slipped off. Try it again. Back in there. There we go. That's a lot. That's what I like right there. No free play at all. Nice spin. See how it spins smooth? It's not just like, ugh. You want a nice spin and no up and down movement. And that'll get a lot of life out of those wheel bearings.
Yeah, we got too much lift in the front for the way we had it set up. And we're gonna try to get a little bit more lift out of the rear, which is not gonna be much, but it will be a little bit. We'll probably end up getting, I know it looks like from here to here is 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, but you kind of almost gotta divide that by 2. So best case scenario, we'll get like 3/4 of an inch.
It's better. All right, with that, our installation of the upgraded suspension and steering components is complete. We got our locker in and we cannot wait to test it out. Leave a comment and tell us what you think, and do us a favor and hit that subscribe button.
And most definitely, if you're gonna leave a comment, please tell us what we did wrong.
All right, so we're gonna take a little test drive. It's late night, but
See if we can't get a little bit better steering.
Did you get the set screws set good on that steering shaft?
It's not gonna kill your battery or nothing. I got no brakes, fellas.
You ain't got no brakes? Oh, you got the pump.
Yeah.
Put that needle on. What do you think about the rides? I love it, man. I think it's riding great.
I agree.
It rides better than it did.
I agree.
That's never rode. That's never rode this good. I should have done this before we went to the old school.
Oh wow, I can turn left again. That's a plus.
You can drive this to church.
I do, I got my Bible right here.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, I've seen this spot.
So we just locked the hubs. We're going to test out these Skyjacker springs, see how they flex, see how they move. No, we can't wait till tomorrow. But we want to check out the locker too and see how the locker works and engages. So we've been working all day. It's dark now. We've got our testing grounds. We don't let people know where this is. It's kind of a secret little spot we got.
And make sure y'all don't say what road this is.
No, I won't tell anybody. I mean, this is we don't want people coming up here and tearing up these trails, or getting on some of the places and try to climb up like over there where it's not even a trail, just tearing to pieces stuff. So we don't let people know where this is. Well, yeah, there was some jackleg and a Land Cruiser rolling around here too, but once we fired that
Wow. How you feel about it?
Man, that's 90 day difference. I come out this before when I was testing to see if I could clear the tires, and it wouldn't even come up with it all. How much you want for it?
this Holly Pro injection is working really well.
Yeah.
I'm not used to something big and heavy doing this.
The driver's trying to tire win.
What should I do? good, it steers good, and the locker just like, you're gonna be able to get in the woods and be a lot easier on it to do a lot more crazy stuff, you know. I appreciate the help.
So hold on, I'll be double locked after this, right?
Double
Because the case is locked.
Yeah, cases.
Front axle is going to be locked.
Yeah, locking hubs. That counts as a locker too, right? You got
One,
lockers on
two,
the front.
three.
Can I weld the rear and it still be locked? I mean, that's technically locked.
Triple lock.
Triple lock. That's what I'm putting across the windshield. Triple locked.